And this is going to be Gabriel's
13th day, I think.
13.
13, okay.
Anything we should be talking about before we...
No, I didn't have any problems with the beeper, so I don't have anything.
All right.
And then when did you wear it?
So I wore one beep this morning and then 5 beeps yesterday. Oh, I will say one thing, actually. I do have to be kind of strict with time today because I have like a web doctor's appointment at 1:45.
Okay.
No problem.
Let's be done pretty close on time.
Okay.
So you said, sorry, just to make sure, you said 1 this morning, 5 last night?
Yeah, 5 last night or 5 last evening. Not midnight or anything like that. But
Okay, no problem.
Well, let's do the one from today and then we'll skip back.
Okay. So let me go ahead and open that. And so I wrote that down in my notebook here. All right. So for context, at the moment of this beep, I was texting my family in a home group. And at the moment of the beep, in my experience was the word the, spoken in my inner voice. And I had just finished writing it. So it was the experience of writing it and innerly reading it. And it did have that raspy voice that I've talked about before, though it was just experienced as, my voice. Additionally, there was the thought of my family finding the message I was writing humorous.
And as far as your experience is concerned, is it more about the or more about the humor? Or isn't that question possible to answer?
So I would say that it was two different kinds of present to me. Like one was present to me in a more I would say that it's kind of hard for me to answer that question because I guess the was more apparent to me simply because I guess in a way it's more obvious. So
well, let's start with that one. It
okay.
doesn't really matter. More or less, it just matters where's the easy place to start. So let's start with
okay. The is the easy place to start then.
Okay. Maybe that's the question I should ask as to which was more salient. I should ask which is the easy place to start.
Okay.
It would be sort of straightforward. But so the is present to me as I'm reading that as I'm writing it, as I'm typing it.
Yes. Now I had actually completed typing it, and I was reading it after I at the end of having typed it.
Okay. And is the logical chunk or the experiential chunk? Is the experiential chunk just the word the, or is it whatever was going to come after the picnic that we were on or whatever?
At that moment, it was just the word the. I had sort of lost my train of thought as well, so I didn't even have what was going to come after in my experience in any way. So it's just the word the.
Okay. And so does that mean that if the beep had come a little bit earlier, it would have been on just the word that was present earlier? And if the beep had come a little bit later, it might have been on the word that was coming later? So the question that I'm trying to get at is, does your experience seem to sort of jump from one, it's this word, and then it's this word, and it's this word, as opposed to a stream of words and the beep happens to catch it somewhere in there?
So I think that is hard for me to answer, and the reason is because, like I said, at that moment of the beep, I had just lost my train of thought, so I don't really remember what was going on in my head before that. So it's pretty difficult for me to say. All I can say, though, was at that moment, the word the did have some like semantic meaning behind it. Um, and it was part of I knew it was part of a sentence, but really at that moment it was mostly just a word without much baggage or anything.
Okay. And when you say you lost your train of thought, have you lost your train of thought before the beep? So the beep catches you in the midst of having already lost your train of thought?
Yes.
And so would it be, instead of saying or alongside saying it was the word my experience was having lost my train of thought?
No, that that having lost my train of thought was not present to me. It's kind of like sometimes you just go on autopilot and you write stuff. Um, and I had just sort of written the word "the" on autopilot, and so
it's a fact of the universe that I've lost my train of thought,
yes,
but not a fact of my experience that I've lost my train of thought.
Yes.
And what's left of that train is the word "the."
Yes.
Okay. And also at the same time, I'm thinking that my family might find this message funny.
Yes.
And how's that present to me?
So that's present to me as it's just sort of an overall idea that my family, including, every member of my family, but for some reason specifically my sister Abigail, uh, would find the message humorous. And there's no picture or anything like that. There's no picture of my family. It's just sort of the idea of them finding it humorous with some sort of emphasis on my sister Abigail. Kind of like I'm dealing with a list of 5 people, or a list of 4 people, which is the rest of my family, and for some reason she's at the top of the list. But that's just a way. That's sort of a metaphor. That's not actually how it was present to me.
Okay. So the thought is, am I wondering whether my family is going to find it funny, or am I thinking that they will find it funny?
It's not even that. It's more like the idea of them finding it funny. It's just that idea. The idea of them finding it funny is present to me. It's not a hypothetical. It's not like me wondering if this will occur. It's not a proposition that they do find it funny. It's just the idea of them finding it funny.
So, and is funny explicitized in any way? And find it funny ironic, find it funny obscene, find it funny.
Yes, there is a little bit of that. It's find it funny in a, I'm trying to look for the right word here. Find it funny in a disappointed kind of way. Because it was about something, I was texting that for context. I was texting them about how a professor of mine graded an essay of mine and hadn't, and like gave it a 100%, but clearly hadn't actually read it. And then I looked at all the other grades and everybody else's essay was also 100%. So that's the context. So it was sort of like they'll find it funny in a, oh, that's kind of disappointing, but also kind of funny that anybody would do that sort of way.
Okay. Yeah. And is that level of specificity somehow present in my thought that I'm thinking my family is going to find this funny in that particular kind of way. My family, especially Abigail, is going to find it funny in that particular way. So this is a pretty pretty specific thought.
The context is not present to me though.
Okay.
They'll find it funny in a look down upon sort of way.
Okay.
That's the best way of putting it that I can come up with.
All right. So I'm not so interested in exactly the kind of funny, but the fact that what I am interested in is whether you whether this thought process understood what kind of funny it was. And I'm gathering the answer to that is yes.
Yes.
So I know what I mean by family, if it's particularly Abigail, and I know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean by funny, it's this look Downy kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And yet none of those words of Abigail is not present by, as a word, as a picture, as a whatever, and this particular kind of funny isn't present.
Right.
Okay. Then I think good.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything they want to ask about that?
I just wanted to double check on the writing part. So you had just finished writing that word. Is that more of a fact of the universe, or is there any part of that that's in your experience?
Yes. It was typing. So experience of typing the word was there. It was present to me, having typed the word. And
And it,
I think it was a fact of the universe that I had already typed it. The experience of typing it was still there.
okay.
So I want to make sure I understand that. So does that mean that my experience of the typing lingers on after the typing is over, as far as you know?
Yes. And
And
yeah.
by the experience of the typing, do you mean what do you mean by the experience of the typing?
In other words, the whole I said the word "the" in my inner voice. That whole section of my experience with the having said the word "the" was really all one experience. That was the experience of typing the word "the,"
Okay.
and it was only after the fact that I realized at the moment of the beat. It was after the beat that I realized directly after the beep started that I realized, oh, I had actually finished typing this word by the time that I said it out loud in my head. Um, so it's just a fact of the universe that I already finished writing. It was lingering on.
So now I'm not sure about I understand the timing. Is it that
Okay.
I'm typing and as I'm typing, I'm saying the word the, and then a little bit after that, the beep comes, and it's still present to me that I'm typing and saying the word the, even though in actuality that's already passed.
I muddied the waters, so my bad. I the experience was of typing the word the. In reality, I had already typed the word and the inner speaking came after. But in the moment, in the experiential realm, the typing and the speaking were all one in the same. I don't know if it even makes sense to say that there was like a timing uh, that could have been applied to the two things experientially.
And in the real world, are we talking about a tenth of a second or 10 seconds or a second?
I don't know the answer to that question. Well, it would probably would have been like it probably would have been however long it takes me to say the word the. So.
Pretty short time.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think I'm good.
Me too.
Okay, so I guess we'll go backwards. Beep 5.
Okay, beep 5 then. So this was last night. And by the way, I did have an interesting beep in my earlier ones where I actually got beeped while I was writing a beep. So that was kind of fun. But I can do beep 5 right now. Am I very laggy, by the way? I forgot to connect to my hotspot.
You sound good. You sound good.
Okay, good. Okay. So beep number 5. Okay, so for context, I was taking a break and I was playing a video game. I was playing Minecraft. And at the moment of the beep, there was auditorially present to me were the words, "It wasn't just." And this was my internal voice, and I was speaking. It was an internal speaking, and it was also experienced as speaking to a friend, and it was a conversation to a friend about the particular game we were playing. However, everything else, I don't know. I don't know why I was saying it specifically or what I was saying it about or the rest of the context of this imagined conversation. All I know are those 3 words. And then visually, the game was visually present to me, and I was looking of particular note at like some blocks in the corner of a wall, and how they kind of formed an otherworldly infestation. So that concludes. That's like everything that was present to me.
Okay. And where is the easiest place to start in this experience?
Probably the visual.
Okay. So tell me more about this visual, what you were seeing.
Okay, so I was seeing the actual game in the real world. It was actually there in front of me, and I was experientially I was focused on this sort of growth of like of a sort of otherworldly mold or infestation. I was focused on that. Do you want to know like color details or anything like that?
If that's part of your experience, then yes,
Um,
but
it's not. It is technically part of my experience what the colors were.
okay.
So there was, the mold was red and blue, and it had these kinds of. This definitely was part of it. These kinds of tentacle things that were falling down off of it. So that was part of my experience.
Okay. And are you paying any particular attention to the red, blue, or the colors, or is that just I'm looking and that's what it happens to be?
I would say the tentacle things contributed very specifically to the otherworldly part of.
Okay.
So I would say that they were um, somewhat. There was something somewhat thematic about the tentacle things.
Okay. And when you say otherworldly, I'm a little familiar with Minecraft, so
Hmm.
are you talking about the Nether? Is this about the Nether?
No, actually, I'm not.
Oh,
Because in this case, it was like it wasn't actually part of the Minecraft. It was something somebody built to look otherworldly.
I see. Okay, so is this otherworldly present in like a cognitive thing? Like I'm looking at it and it looks otherworldly, or something
Yes.
else, or some
I'll say
reaction, or
actually, it is analytical. Um,
okay.
well, actually, I think there might be both. So there was an analytical part of it where it was like a cognitive, but then there was also sort of this part of it that was just sort of reminding me of H.P. Lovecraft and his writings. So that sort of reminder is kind of, it seems less analytical to me because it's not really something I was actively facilitating or thinking about. The sort of way it reminded me, it was I was like a passive recipient of that of being reminded of that. It was like something that happened to me.
So, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. Are you looking at these tentacle things,
Mm-hmm.
and they're reminding you of a writing you were saying?
Yes.
Okay, and the writing is somehow otherworldly, or
Yes, the writing is about otherworldly stuff. It's
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, but are the words, or are there any words present in this situation here?
Only the ones that I
From,
described in the beginning.
right. But in this,
Those are the only ones.
okay, so in this thought with the tentacles, there's no like otherworldly is not present, HP, loving, or writing,
No,
or
no,
anything.
no. Mm-mm.
Okay.
So can I ask sort of a preliminary question here about this reminding? Is the reminding, being reminded, present to you at the moment of the beep? That is part of what is kind of flighted the beep was, well, that looks like HP, whatever his name is. I don't know this guy.
So yes, well, yes, but it is present to me at the moment of the beep, but the fact that I was being reminded wasn't present to me. Like I wasn't reflecting on the fact that I was being reminded. And I also wasn't like, it wasn't a cognitive, it wasn't really a cognitive thing where I was like actively reflecting about how much it looked like an H.P. Lovecraft thing or something like that. It was like a passive reminder where I couldn't help but be reminded. I couldn't help but like have those kind of memories activated.
So the question that I'm trying to get at is whether those memories are activated in your direct experience. You know, the cognitive psychologists think about things being active, and they don't care whether it's in your cognitive experience or not. And I'm interested in whether you're experiencing this, and if so, in what way.
Yes, I am experiencing it.
Okay. And how so what's this guy's name? H.P. Lovecraft?
Yes.
Okay. And that's a writer?
Yes.
And so somehow you're being reminded of something related to H.P.
Yes.
Lovecraft.
Yeah. Well, yes, because he has like he has some themes that are very unique to him, and so they're called Lovecraftian because I mean it's so unique to him that it's sort of become well known as that kind of style, and it was just I was thinking about how it was Lovecraftian, like it felt Lovecraftian, and there was it felt Lovecraftian.
Felt Lovecraftian, looked like Lovecraftian. I was thinking to myself that it looks Lovecraftian. I was thinking to myself that it felt Lovecraftian. All those things could be sort of separable experiential
Yes.
possibility.
Looked Lovecraftian. But there's also another aspect of this where, so I was definitely thinking this looked Lovecraftian. There's also, what was that?
As a cognitive parallel to the, I see these tentacles, and at the same time, or in the proximity to that, I'm thinking, well, that looks Lovecraftian in some way.
Yes. But there's also a kind of, like an emotional thing where I don't know if this is going to communicate it properly, but you know how sometimes, you smell something and of course it brings you back, but it doesn't just bring you back to particular memories. It brings you back to a feeling associated with that time period or whatever. It's not just a particular memory. It's also like a sort of overall feeling. In the same way, that there's an overall feeling of this Lovecraftian stuff for me, and seeing this gave me that feeling, and that's what I mean by reminded me.
So is there a Lovecraftian feeling and a thought that says, well, that looks like Lovecraft? Or is it just the
Yes,
Lovecraftian feeling?
there is both.
Okay.
And can I ask you before we get too far away from this, in terms of the feeling you're talking about, Gabriel, is you were using the metaphor, right, of like you can smell something and it takes you back to a general emotion. Is there a taking back to something that seeing the tentacle stuff brings it to, or is the feeling itself sort of like an emotional feeling of Lovecraftian?
I don't know if I understand.
I guess the question is this about is the whatever we're calling the affective feeling part of this, is that centrally about Lovecraft or Lovecraftian? Or for
Yes.
example, like I'm remembering the feeling I had when I read Lovecraft's books when I was in middle school or something. Or
Okay.
something else, but
That's okay. So I don't okay. I feel like if I okay. So it might be that I'm remembering the feeling that I had when I read the books. However, I think that would still be centrally Lovecraftian. So I'm still not 100% sure if I completely understand your question. But maybe I do, and if I do, then I would say that both of those are correct.
so this is it's not just that I'm thinking in a cognitive way about something like this looks Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
There's sort of a more trying to think of the right word, not primal, but more of like a sort of a deeper affective sort of thing about
Yes.
Lovecraft or Lovecraftian.
Yes.
But that's not how I understood Cody's original question. What I understood about Cody's original question was, is this about the present tense, I feel Lovecraftian, or is this about a recollection of a past way? I felt Lovecraftian and now I'm feeling it again.
Okay. So okay. So I understand that question.
And my questions are always about your experience, not your understanding about the way feelings work or whatever.
Right.
I want to know whether this feels like it's Lovecraftian right now or whether it's that reminds me of that.
Uh, hmm.
And maybe we've just gotten to the end of where we just can't go.
I think it's kind of both, where it's like it feels Lovecraftian right now, but that feeling is almost okay. Maybe this is what it is. There's some nostalgia built into the feeling. And I think that the nostalgia is what is causing this to be a muddy topic, because the nostalgia is sort of an act of being reminded, or it's very strongly connected to that.
Got it.
And I think that's what it is. There's nostalgia there.
So Lovecraftian feeling includes some nostalgic stuff.
Yes, or maybe it arouses nostalgia in me, and I can't separate it completely when I think about it, but that's what's going on.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Okay. So I guess we could go to it wasn't just portion.
Mhm.
So remind me again what was going on there.
Right. I'm just laughing because I started off this saying the visual thing would be the most straightforward, but or the most easy, but I don't think it was. It wasn't just. It was just auditorially present to me. There was it was the three words in my internal voice, raspy and like I've discussed before, and yeah, it was just those three words, and it was experienced as part of a conversation with my friend about the game.
Okay. And so it wasn't just, is it that this block of words is, I'm saying these block of words and the beep happens, or I'm saying a sentence, the beep happens to catch me at the end of just, or is it just that these block of words are in my experience somehow? I don't know if that question made any sense, but.
No, it makes sense. I think in this case, it's kind of like the last one where I had the word the, and this sort of chunk, it was, I mean, it was presumably part of a sentence. However, the rest of the sentence really wasn't present to me. Like, I don't, it was experienced as part of a sentence, but the rest of the sentence wasn't there, which is partially because this was sort of just going on in the back of my head, and I wasn't really focusing on it.
Okay. And is there anything more to be said about that?
No, I don't. Well, I mean, not that I know of.
Okay. And this speaking to a friend deal,
Mhm.
could you tell me more about that? Like how
So,
that's present?
right. So it's sort of like in my in I'm when I'm saying these words in my head, um, it's part of a imaginary conversation with a friend of mine. So he's not actually there. I'm not actually talking to him in the real world, but
Mhm.
um, the it wasn't just was me saying those three words to my friend.
And this is a specific person I'm gathering. It's
Yes.
not just I'm saying it to this person. Okay.
Yeah, this specific person.
And does it make sense to say which is more present to you, the speaking part or the tentacles part? Or
I
they-
would say it makes sense, but I don't know the answer right now. I don't remember enough to know which thing I was thinking about more.
Okay. And you also said that the speaking was in the back of your mind. Did you mean that metaphorically or did you mean that?
Yeah, metaphorically.
Okay. Not back here somewhere.
Yeah, no, not actual physical location.
Okay. Some people, when they say in the back of my mind, do mean that.
Okay. Yeah. That's not what I mean in this particular instance.
Okay. Onward.
I did have just one quick question. Of the tentacles bit, Gabriel, is
Mhm.
it fair to is the sort of the majority of that, again, I don't know if this is an answerable question, but is the majority of that sort of the seeing of it or the nostalgic part of it, or
Okay, the majority of that would be the seeing of it.
this is mostly a seeing or primarily a seeing that also includes the parts of sort of the being reminded of the Lovecraftianness of it?
Yes.
And I'm good on this beat.
Number 4.
Yep.
Okay. So this was also while I was playing this game, and in this case, okay. Uh, Actually, no, this wasn't while I was playing a game. But I was thinking about the game. So in this particular instance, the word scales was in my head, as in like scales of a dragon. And so that word was auditorially present to me. And additionally, there was in my visual experience an imagined scales, which were kind of pixelated and blocky, so as to be kind of like in the art style of Minecraft. Also, auditorily present to me was the sound of my alarm going off on my phone, and it was experienced as the sound of my alarm. But also there was the whole melody of the alarm. Like I feel as though the whole detail of the alarm was there. I was hearing it. I was hearing it very clearly, and also there's a sensation, like a physical sensation, which was present to me, which was just that of warmth. And that covers it.
And I guess same question as you've asked before. Any easiest place for us to start?
Probably the easiest one I would say is warmth.
Warmth?
Yes. And that's just because it's basically like one thing, and I can't really explain it any further. It's just that my whole body felt warm. I will say specifically my legs.
And by specifically my legs, meaning just
My legs felt
or-
more warm than the rest of my body.
Gotcha.
But I still felt warm. It wasn't just my legs that felt warm.
So this is like my legs are really warm and the rest of my body is warm.
Mm-hmm.
And is this about the warmth or the contrast in warmth between my legs and my body, or?
It's just about the warmth. It's not about the contrast.
And is the warmth experientially present at the moment of the beep? So it's what I want to know is whether interrupted by the beep is the experience of warmth, or the beep happens, I survey my situation, and I find warmth in my legs.
Right. I mean, as best as I can say, the actual experience of warmth was there. It was experientially present to me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have any other questions about warmth?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Okay.
And then where does it make sense to go next, Gabriel?
Well, so the whole scales and the image, that would probably, I think that was more present to me than the sound of my alarm at the time. However, the sound of my alarm at the time is the easiest one for me to describe.
Okay.
So, because that's also a pretty simple thing. That was just the sound of my alarm. I mean, it's simple as I think of it. It was just the sound of my alarm on my phone. And it was going off at the moment of the beep, and it was just very present to me. It was a whole musical phrase that was present to me. At the moment of the beep, I think it was the entire alarm up until the beep. So I wasn't chunked out or anything like that.
So in reality, my alarm's been going off for a second or two, and at the moment of the beep, it's the whole alarm, that whole musical phrase of the alarm that's present.
Yes.
And you had said this was auditorily present.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can imagine that can be a hearing thing, but it might not be. So I want to know how.
Yeah, it's a hearing thing. I heard it in the real world. It was in the real world, and I heard it. It was like hearing anything else in the real world. as far as I can tell.
And you had talked a little bit about the detail of the alarm being there, meaning like the melody and all of that,
Yes.
and that it was clear. Is that all sort of one the same way? You've been talking here a little bit now about it was the whole musical phrase. It was very clear.
I
Is there
said that
anything more to say about
because,
that, or?
yeah, well, I said that because I actually just said that because that was interesting to me. Because we've talked a lot about visual and how there's a lot of undefined or elements in like visual experience, and especially imagined visual experience, maybe, or maybe both, but it's just more obvious in imagined visual experience that there are undefined elements that in reality are kind of not very clear if you analyze it, even if their experience is clear in the moment. But when it came to this particular um, this musical phrase, I did not feel as though there was anything that wasn't clear, even on retrospect, even when I analyzed it as well as I could.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions on that?
I do. So is in this portion of your experience, does it make sense to ask, are you hearing an alarm or are you hearing a musical phrase?
I'm hearing a musical alarm because the sort of musical nature of it was definitely present to me, but it was also present to me as an alarm.
More equally so? An alarm is something I'm supposed to respond to this, and a musical phrase is I'm supposed to listen to this. I guess those are.
Yeah, yes. I think it was more so musical. It was actually kind of like an annoying musical as well. So there was some annoyance that was present to me. Um, but I would say actually, although it was present to me as an alarm, it was more so present to me as a kind of an annoying musical interruption.
And then there's
And I would say to the group, just on in the methodological deal here, when he's called it an alarm, but his description has been of the musicality of it, and the description usually trumps the word in reality. So the word in reality is it's an alarm, but in experience it's more musical. Not a mind reading thing. He's told us that. So onto the scales.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. This is difficult because I do not remember what it looked like. I wrote it down. I wrote down, this is what I wrote, that I had the word scales in auditorially in my experience, much like, any of the other words we've talked about. And then there was the image of these blocky, pixelated scales that were in the style of Minecraft art. But I actually don't remember it at all. I don't remember what it looked like.
So I'd say we should honor that.
Yep.
I would like to ask about the auditorially present, or do you want to ask about that, Cody?
Okay.
You can ask it. That was where my question was going to go next.
So is this I'm saying to myself scales, or I'm hearing the word scales, or what?
Yes, it was I was speaking it in my head. So
Okay.
And is scales here at this beep experientially any different or similar to it wasn't just in the past beep or the
Ah,
in the first beep or beep 6?
it was not part of, so each of those were part of a sentence, and they were experienced as part of a sentence, even though the rest of the sentence wasn't there. In this instance, it was not actually even experienced as part of a sentence. It was just one word. Mhm.
But all were innerly spoken as opposed to I'm just
Yes.
hearing this. There's no okay.
Yes.
I'm just speaking.
Yeah.
So as an aside, I'm sort of curious why you would say this is auditorially present as opposed to I was saying it.
Um, okay. Because I mean, I, you know, because I did hear it. Did I say that I didn't hear it?
No, you said that it was mostly spoken. I think you didn't say that you didn't hear it.
Okay. Yeah, I was speaking it, but I think on the last question, Cody, I'm sorry. I think I kind of zoned out when you on your last question. I don't remember, so I don't know if I answered that wrong. But yeah, I had spoken the word scales, and I was hearing it was auditorially present to me because I hear it when I innerly speak it. So that said, I wouldn't say I was hearing it more so than I was speaking it, or that I was speaking it more so than I was hearing it, because they're really kind of two sides of the same coin in this when it comes to innerly speaking, and it doesn't make sense to me to say one is more so than the other.
Yeah.
Then onward, and I would say you said that you had one beep that was sort of interesting, and that it was a beep about another beep. Would it make sense
Yes.
to go directly to that one?
Sure. I'd like to, because that was fun.
And what number was that, just out of?
That was beep number 2.
Okay.
So in beep number 2, there was auditorially present to me the words being food, and I was experiencing it as having written those words or typed those words. And I was also at that moment, so to be clear, it was the experience of innerly speaking them and innerly writing them. And innerly writing so far, every time I've externally writing. Every time I've written something so far, I've innerly spoken it as well. So it was the experience of innerly writing it and having it innerly spoken. And then at the same time as I was writing those 2 words, I was wondering how I could possibly verbally explain how the cache in the previous beep had a sense of being food, since the connection is so tenuous. Additionally, I was visually imagining Dr. Hurlburt, and I was struggling to, I was visually imagining Dr. Hurlburt struggling to understand what I was saying. So also in this experience, Amber was also visually there, and she had a somewhat better grasp on what I was saying because she had seen the show I was talking about, Breaking Bad. And also visually, there was a bag of prop methamphetamine. So, yeah. And I think, and there was also visually present to me, there was a bundle of cash in a clip art style. And that covers it.
So there's a word that I'm not sure I've heard. Is it cache? C-A-S-H, cache?
Yes.
Okay. And And then there's all the visual stuff, at least three different themes of the me and Amber, and so it's four, I guess. Me and Amber, a bag of prop meth, and a bundle of cash.
Well, the meth and the cash, that's one thing. Like that's one. They're not visually separated. There's the cash next to the meth, and also you and Amber, that's one thing as well. Like you're next to each other there. It's not two separate seeings.
So is it two separate seeings? One of me
It's
and
two
Amber?
separate seings.
Okay, one of me and Amber, and one of the cash and the meth.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and equally present, both of those seeings.
The you and Amber is more present than the meth and the cash.
60-40, 90-10.
60-40 sounds about right.
Okay. And so me and Amber, what do you see?
So I see Amber with a look of under, it's hard to explain, but it's sort of like a hesitant understanding, I guess, is the best way of putting it, where there's like a look of on her face of that she kind of understands what I'm saying, and she might have figured it out, but isn't sure. And then Dr. Hurlbert, in this, you are sitting back in your chair, and I think your eyebrows are a little scrunched while you're trying to figure out what I mean.
So is it fair to say that you see mostly Amber's expression and my expression? This is about seeing our expressions, or is that just happened to be?
The expressions are the most thematic elements.
Okay. And what else is present other than the expressions?
There is the zoom window. So both your images there are in a zoom window for me.
And in two separate squares, I'm in one square, Amber's in another one?
Yes.
And does it make sense to ask which ones?
Am
I to the right?
Well, I mean, the whole time I was thinking about this, I was thinking that you were on the right, my right, and then Amber was on my left. However, that is also the case right now. So I wonder if maybe that's a result of.
Okay. Could be.
I'm not sure. I'm not very confident about that.
So I do think it's the case that the present always infects the past. There's no question about that. But I'm gathering you to be saying it seems to me that Herbert's on the right and Amber's on the left, but
yes,
maybe that comes from something else.
Yes.
And do you see the whole Zoom setup, or is it just like you see yourself in there and Cody too, or?
There are other windows, but they're not clear at all. So.
And the Zoom setup, is that clear?
It's clear that there is a Zoom setup, but the rest of it is not very clear. Like the rest of it is not visually clear.
And Amber and I are clear.
Mm-hmm.
And is it just our expressions that are clear, or you see?
Your expressions are definitely the most clear part of the entire thing.
Okay. And then there's the cash and the drugs. What do you see in that?
So that's like a whole nother image, and it's not like, it doesn't have a position relative to the position the, of the seeing of you and Amber. It's just somewhere. And that's like, there's a bag of this blue prop methamphetamine. And specifically, I do experience it as being cotton candy flavored prop methamphetamine. Although I'm not experiencing the flavor, the fact of the matter is there. And then there's also to its right, or sorry, to my right, or to the right of it, there's like a bundle of cash. And the bundle of cash is kind of looks like something you'd see on Monopoly board or something like that. It's kind of it's cartoonish, cartoony cash. Looks like clip art.
And so do you see cash itself, or do you see a bundle with a dollar sign on it? Or
I see cash. It's like a little stack of cash with a band around it.
okay.
And it's the side of the cash. I don't see the dollar sign or anything like that. It's just the side of the cash.
Okay. And you said it doesn't seem to have a relationship to me and Amber. Does that mean that they're both sort of straight ahead, and how could that possibly be in the real world?
I wouldn't even say that they're both straight ahead. It doesn't make sense for me to put okay. It makes sense for me to put a direction on the seeing of you and Amber because of the fact that the experience is of seeing you guys in front of me. However, when it comes to this bag of cash or this stack of cash and the bag of meth, that has it doesn't make sense to put it anywhere.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions about the visual stuff?
I do.
I do too.
Okay.
Amber, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. So, for the expressions, there is this notion of Amber is having this expression because she's seen Breaking Bad. Is that part of the experience, or is that just, I don't know, is that just more like of a rationalizing, this is why I saw it this way, this is why I saw it that way. That's not part of my experience at the moment of the beat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I think the fact is the fact that the fact of your understanding being a result of having seen the show is there, but it is pretty small.
Okay. So I'm just trying to get that. Is this more than I'm just seeing two differing
Yes.
emotional reactions? There's
it's definitely
more.
more than that. Yeah, there's definitely a little more than that.
Okay. And then this again with the blue prop meth. Is that a similar thing? The cotton candy flavor. It's a little more than I'm just innerly seeing this bag of blue whatever. I'm somehow this part of candy flavored is part of my experience, even though I don't taste it. I don't know what that tastes like.
Exactly.
Somehow.
Yeah, the fact of it being cotton candy flavored is just there somehow. It's not, obviously it's not visually present.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah.
Maybe not obviously, but it's...
Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay.
Okay.
Then those were...
So let me interrupt here and mindful of the time here, let me ask about the second half of this experience. So the other half of this experience was you was wondering how you're going to explain the cash to us, I guess.
Yes, and I do have 10 more minutes. So yeah, wondering how I was going to explain the cache. So the wondering is very strongly connected to the image. And so I guess the question is, would I still be wondering this even if the image weren't there? Well, I guess that's not the question you asked, but yeah. So I had this wondering. I was wondering how I could possibly explain this connection. Because it made very little, it didn't seem to make much sense. The connection that I was reflecting on was very tenuous. And I was wondering this, and it's like part of the reason I was wondering this was because I was imagining this thing happening where you guys wouldn't understand what I was talking about.
So the wondering itself, I'm gathering that there is a wondering that's present that is beyond the image.
Yes.
And there's actually two images involved. Is the wondering about both of them, both the Amber and me image and the cache image?
I don't think the cache image, I don't think I'm wondering about that.
Okay. So it's more about whether we could understand. So you have
Yes.
you have an image of us sort of semi-understanding, Amber more than me, but neither one of us necessarily understanding anything. And you're wondering how you're going to convey this, whether it's possible. How could you explain it to us?
It was how I could possibly explain it.
Okay.
Yes.
And how could I possibly explain it thought a similar thing or a different thing from number one, where I'm worried about or wondering about my family and whether they're going to find the message funny? Is this the same genre with a much different content?
Yeah, I would say so. That seems pretty accurate to me. That said, the content is very different. And to be clear, in the message to my family, I was not wondering if they would find it funny. It was just the idea of them finding it funny. In this particular instance, I was wondering about something.
Okay, I got that. But my question was about the vehicle, I guess, the vehicle of the thinking. And does it seem like it's sort of the same kind of a thing? One is a wondering and one is about my family and one is about understanding and whatever. But the question is whether the thought process seems like sort of the same deal or different.
Yes, that seems accurate. I guess I don't even know what would constitute a difference between them. So as far as I can tell, it seems like they're the same thing. They're the same kind of thought process.
Okay. Then I think we probably ought to say that's good, and
okay,
you get ready for your next meeting.
Okay.
And I guess I would say that both of those examples are what I would call unsymbolized thinking. Those are
okay. Got it.
Pretty clear examples of the way unsymbolized thinking is generally understood, presented, whatever.
Okay.
So I guess sooner or later we got to stop doing these things, and we got to decide when we're gonna do that. So maybe we should let you go do your thing, and the rest of us should decide what we got to do here. And
okay, that sounds good. So yeah, I have to leave in 6 minutes, but so will I get an email or something?
Well, for sure, we're going to have at least one more discussion or one more opportunity for discussion, and that would be, at the very least, you would get a chance to ask us or tell us or whatever what it is that's been going on for you, questions that you've had or whatever. So at least there's going to be a debriefing thing.
Okay.
But and maybe more sampling things. If it were up to you, would you continue to sample? Would you like to do that, or if you had sort of enough of this, you got that feeling for what this is like? Or?
If it were up to me, I'd continue. I enjoy it. I think I always look forward to the sampling days and everything. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I enjoy it too. So, but everybody's got to have a chance to think about what they want to be doing here. So
Right.
we should talk about that.
And there's only so much data that you can get from me. So
That's right.
all right. Well, thank you very much.
So we will be back in touch with you about something soon.
Okay, sounds
and
good.
We'll get you down the road to your appointment.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right.
Have a
Thanks.
nice day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gabriel.